What's up, everybody? Well, after a really long hiatus of not making that much videos, I figured I would go ahead and make up for lost time, in other words, and bring to you another vacuum that is in my collection. Here I present to you a Dirt Devil upright vacuum. That is literally its name, the upright. Of course, most people will know this vacuum better as is the Dirt Devil Deluxe. I myself know it better as the Deluxe. I kind of like to call this one the Deluxe when it's really just called the Upright. Because there were other variants of this that were named the Deluxe. And there was a version, the Upright Deluxe. And then a much later version called the MVP with a much more powerful motor. This is basically the first of the 7200 or 8200 series uprights. And I've always wanted to find one. Some people may remember some time ago on my channel I had another Dirt Devil Deluxe, a 8201 to be exact. I will link the video to that vacuum in the description box of this video, so if any of you want to see what that was, you can go ahead and check that out. But I actually stumbled across this one on Facebook Marketplace for only 20 bucks, which I decided sold. So I went to go pick it up, and the vacuum was in very good condition. There were just a couple little things wrong with it. For one, the headlight was blown out, typical. And a couple other things that I will go over here shortly. But just a simple service, and now it's back up and running. And here to make its debut and run on my official channel. So let's go ahead and give a walkthrough. So the Dirt Devil Deluxe style upright vacuums was Dirt Devil's first go in trying to make a clean air bypass designed upright. And it was both good and bad in some ways. I mean, good as in it definitely revolutionized the lineup of the time, but the only bad thing is the quality of the time was not very good. These vacuums fell apart when plastic parts got brittle and broke. One of them being the bag door. That's another thing that usually put these out of service. But also the very, very early models that had lower amperage motors, honestly, were not the most powerful. This one is 7 amps, so this thing does not make much power. But the one thing I do love about them, even though not having very much cleaning power, is the noise is very quiet compared to later variants with higher amperage motors. So, as we move up here, you have your nice handle grip on the top. One thing I do find kind of interesting about these Deluxes is the handle grip positioning. If you can see the handle, instead of it being traditionally bent at like 45-degree angles, this one is bent, I think, 60 or 65 degrees, so the vacuuming position is a little bit more comfortable, especially for those who suffer with arthritis. Now, it's not Oryx's famous helping hand handle, which that one was allegedly designed by an orthopedic surgeon, but I do think this is a more comfortable vacuuming position compared to most other vacuums that they would have on the market. And admittedly, it did take me some getting used to it, but I actually caught on pretty well. Now, you will notice along the back here, there are supposed to be some little clips that attach up here and down here that hold your dusting brush and upholstery tool, but unfortunately those broke off or went missing over time. But as you can see, the indentations are still there. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but they are still there, so if I find some more brackets, I can attach those. So for right now, I have its non-original dusting brush, which I actually stole this from one of my Hoovers. and just mounted it to where the carrying handle is supposed to be, which this, you can just carry it from right here. The vacuum is surprisingly lightweight, not as heavy as most others. But anyway, I like to mount the dusting brush right here, just so it has a place to mount on. And along the back here, you do have your crevice tool mounted right there. Nice that that's still there. And you do have a little storage compartment for extra bags, even a belt storage right over here. And of course, your cord mounted along the back. And here is the hose on the back. It's not a very good quality hose. It's just a fixed hose, so you can't really reach too far with this. And the wand is connected in right from down here. And interestingly enough, it does have a suction relief valve for some reason, which I don't know why, because this thing does not have that much suction power to begin with. So I don't understand why Dirt Devil decided it was a good idea to put a suction relief valve here. But that's fine either way. Just an odd quirk about the cleaner. You also do have one large extension wand mounted on the side here that mounts on like this. You just put it like so, push it down, and then there's a little plastic tab that'll hold the wand in place so it won't fall down. And right up on top here, you do have your main power switch. Now let's go ahead and I'll show you the emblem on the front. You have your nice Dirt Devil upright in nice cursive writing. I do like that aesthetic about these older Deluxe style uprights. They have either upright or Deluxe printed in cursive on the front. It's much different than the 8201 I once had. That one just had a plain Deluxe printing with no cursive writing. But anyway, to open the bag door, you do have to pull a little bit up from right here. Then the bag door hinges up and off to get access to your bag. This is quite a ghetto bag setup. When I bought this, for whatever reason, the original bag dock that attaches up on the top here that runs your Dirt Devil Type C bag went missing. So me, in my ingenious move, I found a Eureka F&G HEPA cloth bag by Vacuum America Clean, and as you can see the way it's mounted in, I have mounted it upside down just so it'll get as much of an efficient air path to the thing as possible. As you can see, it's mounted up on the curved fill tube that's still here. It hinges up around the top, and then to secure it in place, although there may have been better options to do this, but I'm currently using a hose strap for a rainbow that I had laying around from one of my rainbow vacuums. So I just decided to use one of them to secure the bag into place. So now you have HEPA filtration in this. And the bag is pretty large. This probably doesn't work the best, but it gets me by for now until I can find a parts machine that has a C dock for a Type C bag. But it works good, and I get HEPA filtration out of it, so I'm not complaining. So here is your interesting pre-motor filter. I may end up replacing this, but it actually feels pretty good. It actually works pretty well, even though I think this is mostly to compensate for how bad the original bag's filter, but it's held up pretty good. I just tapped it out, not a big deal. So let's go ahead and put the bag door back on. I'm gonna attach the bottom catch right here. Come on. Alright, there we are. And then it'll just snap on like so. One thing I do like about these older bag doors is this section right here is not split like the later models were. That was definitely a weak point on later model Deluxes. That is the first thing that usually breaks, and that's what retires the entire vacuum. So why Dirt Devil? Why did you have to split this apart and create a weak point that can easily be broken? These don't usually break as much because they're all one molded piece at the top. But yeah, usually they also can develop large split cracks right here, which also can leak suction. So that's another thing that could retire these. So quality-wise, Dirt Devil wasn't really the best, but these are still honestly way better than anything Dirt Devil makes today. So as we move along down here, you have your nice large headlight on the front there. And you have your full cleaning width right here. This one has a 7 amp motor. So it's definitely one of the smaller motors, so not the most powerful, but pretty nice and quiet for what it is. And you also do have this oddball edge cleaning feature controlled by this little diverter valve right here that you can see is currently set to full clean, where everything will go down to the head of the vacuum. But if you flip this switch over right here, a diverter valve will pull close and all the suction will be directed to this air channel on the side of the vacuum for edge cleaning. Very gimmicky feature if you ask me, and wasn't really as effective, but it actually is a little bit more of an effective edge cleaner than most others that I've seen that have side brushes, which those don't do anything at all. If anything, they'll pull large dust bunnies off the side, but they don't really pull it in via suction. So now let's go ahead and flip this thing underneath to show you the underside. So underneath here is the brush roll. It is the original brush roll, and it's in fairly good shape. The bristles are pretty soft, so that's kind of another thing that attributes to the not the best cleaning performance that this has, but still in good shape. Trust me, if I were designing this, I would have given it much stiffer bristles. Maybe these bristles were stiffer when they were brand new, but over the years of using this, they have gotten soft over the years. But the thing I do like about Dirt Devil brush rolls is the bristles are almost very straight across the brush roll pattern, which that's probably what attributes to some agitation out of this brush roll, but it's not much. Another thing to note about this, my 8201 I once had kind of a chevron pattern, so some of the bristles will kind of curve out and up like this, and then the rest would flow down. So this one's just a helix pattern that funnels it all into this suction path right down here. Another thing that differs the 7200 series versus the 8200 series are these little latches that hold the bottom plate on. Right here, let me see if I can get this all off in one camera. It is not going to be very easy to do because these front wheels are in the way. Or actually, let's go ahead and flip this thing on its back to demonstrate that. You just release it all the way down, the wheels will pop in, then the bottom plate will pop up and off like that. So you can get access to changing your belt if you need to. And this will also give you a little bit of a look at the suction diverter valve for the edge cleaning. So as we move it over to the edge cleaning function, as you can see, there's a valve that completely blocks off suction going to the head, and it'll all go through this little side channel right here. You don't want to leave this on the edge cleaning feature. You want to make sure it's put back into the full clean position. So you have your maximum suction go into your head so you can have the best cleaning performance. And there's right here your Dirt Devil Style 4 belt. That unfortunately broke, which is the reason why the previous owner sold it. But luckily, they actually had a spare belt on hand, so I threw it in, and it works great. So now let's go ahead and reattach the bottom plate. Changing the belt on this is way easier than my 8200. That one was held by screws. But this one's pretty convenient. And before we go to this, let's check the model number. It's a Royal cleaner, which Royal was the manufacturer of Dirt Devil, in case you didn't know. It is the model 7200, one of the different variants of the 7200. The other one was obviously called the Deluxe. There was also a 7100, which was the more base model, and 7170, which was right in the middle, by Royal Appliance Manufacturing Company in Cleveland, Ohio, and made in the USA. That is one thing I definitely like. It gives me some peace of mind, is that it was all US made, because Chinese manufacturing really cut costs. And this is a 120 volts, has 50 to 60 hertz, has only 7 amps. And the serial number, I'm not too sure if anyone can decode the month for me, but L91, I believe the L was the plant that this was made in. 91, I do believe, is the year. So I do buy that this thing was made in 1991, because it is that old. The newest version of this, I think, sold up until 96 before the vacuum line was discontinued. So now let's go ahead and put this guy up. And also, here is the carpet height adjustment that is foot operated. You just push down right here to adjust the carpet height to either your high, medium, or low setting, or you could just push it back in and leave it on auto, which is usually what I do, because it allows the front wheels to sit deeper down into the carpet to create the best cleaning performance, since this thing obviously is not very powerful. So you need as much of that cleaning performance as you can get. So, other than that, I'm pretty sure you guys want to see some running action out of this thing. So let's go ahead and do just that. Let's go ahead and release the cord. The cord hook also is not really the best of shape. You see, it kind of wobbles around like so, and the bottom one kind of does the same, although the top one's the one that people are going to release off the most. The cord is surprisingly longer than I expected. I expected this to have a very pathetically short cord, but I think this is got to be somewhere in like the 26-foot range. So not amazing in terms of cord length, but not stupidly short either. And now, with that said, let's go ahead and turn this vacuum on and give you some cleaning action here. Here's your power switch. And so, away we go. give you a demo of the edge cleaning feature. See, everything will go over to this side channel. It's not fantastic, but you always want to have it on full clean because that feature is kind of pointless anyway. Very nice and smooth running cleaner. Definitely runs very quiet. Definitely quiet for a Dirt Devil. These things got much louder as the years went on. But this actually sounds pretty good. And let's go ahead and give you a little bit of a suction demo. Can. The hose, being a fixed hose, it's not going to be really the most user-friendly. Also, coupled to the fact the vacuum's not very well sealed, it's also another tribute to how poor the suction is. Not very easy to hold the camera and do this at the same time. Alright, now let's go ahead and put everything back. Even though the hose is fixed, one thing I do like is that this end swivels so the hose doesn't get caught up or kinked or anything. So, definitely quite a great nostalgic vacuum. Some parts are good and some parts are bad. The one thing I definitely will say that's good about it is the motor that's in it. Yeah, even though the motor is not the most powerful, I mean, that's also coupled with how the vacuum is not very well sealed. But then again, you do have to give Dirt Devil a break. This was their first bypass upright vacuum. The motor design, many people don't know this, was actually made by Amtech Lam, the same motor company that makes motors for high-end vacuums like your Panasonics, your Ricars of the time, and a bunch of others that I can't think of offhand, but Amtech Lam has made excellent, good quality motors in this. And this one is no exception. I honestly think the motor in this would outlast the vacuum. And even though this may have a case of dry motor bearings, which you could have here in the first time I turned this on and gave you the big run demo, but that can easily be fixed. One of these days I may have to actually do that. But Amtech Lam motors are so well built and run so great. And this vacuum just brings back so much nostalgia for me. Ever since growing up with the original Dirt Devil Jr. toy. Unfortunately, the one I had was the hoseless version. That later version without the hose, that whenever you pushed it forward, it made that awful ratcheting sound. And there was a version that did have the hose, which a friend of mine had, but I didn't. But because I had the one without the hose, I didn't like to use it because it made that god-awful ratcheting noise. So I eventually sold that. My parents later bought me the Vision Swivel Glide version. But I've always loved the design of the hoseless Junior Deluxe. And I've always dreamed of having the vacuum in real life. So now it is good to have another example of that. Well, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this full video on the Dirt Devil Upright Deluxe. Be sure and stay tuned, and don't forget to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.